important is to connect with each and every one of the friends in love in one heart to serve the Creator, to lend a shoulder to each other, to build connections, to adhere to each other in our hearts so that we will become one whole and we will be able to serve Him with all of our heart. And it is a great example when we build this connection above distances, above disruptions, and in this common preparation we were given this feeling from the friends from Unity 5. Some of them are 8 hours away from us in one direction of the clock or in the other direction, and in spite of everything they connect, they care for each other. They care about the intention of each other in order to maintain the intention and pass it on, and they make every effort in that, not for themselves, because they don't even have the opportunity to be in the Arvit system. They connect through Zoom virtually. Nevertheless, these friends give themselves so much so that they'll be able to go out and at least convey this inspiration, this spirit of life that they had during the meetings that we had together. This connection between the friends is necessary in order to have the possibility to serve the Creator with all our heart, in order to be compatible with faith above everything. Enlightenment. Every connection is achieved through faith above reason, because connection between egoistic parts can only occur by rising above them. This is called faith above reason, through the power of bestow over the power of reception. Again, every connection is achieved through faith above reason, because connection between egoistic parts can only occur by rising above them. This is called faith above reason, through the power of bestow over the power of reception. A question for an active workshop. How does the yearning for connection lead us to faith above reason? Again, how does the yearning for connection lead us to faith above reason? Active workshop. We understand that in order to connect with the Creator, through which connection with the Creator, adhesion in Him, we have to go through the connection with friends. That's first and foremost. Through the work with friends, we prepare ourselves to connect with the Creator. Our ego will not allow us to connect correctly. He will always have complaints. There will always be work in overcoming desire, connection, overcoming above reason. We perform all the actions that we perform out of yearning for connection, out of the yearning to reach the goal. Then we draw the light upon us, and this light begins to correct us. The moment that it connects us, then we feel what faith above reason is. Then after a few efforts that we make to connect, we reach the understanding that you can't do it alone. Only with the help of the upper force can you reach the goal. Be together between us and close to the Creator. So we turn to Him with a request. We turn to Him because the language and the way we turn to Him is the same frequency as faith above reason. It's a connection. It's the Creator. It is the same world. Connection creates the faith above reason, because faith above reason is bestow above reception. To the extent that we create the connection between us, the connections between us, these bonds, we create the force of bestow, which is above the force of reception of each and every one of us. Yes, and yearning is a future force. It is a force that brings us out of our ego. This is why it is good to speak about the yearning, our yearning for the Creator. Our yearning for the Creator is expressed through the connect, through the yearning for connection. And what's required is the force of, we ask the Creator to give us the desire to bestow in order to have adhesion with the Creator, while for our part we are unable to overcome our will to receive and subdue it. If so, it will cancel itself and give its place, so that the will to bestow will govern the body. As it is written, Our Father, our King, do for your sake, if not for our sake. Hey, Heat, Chalam, November. Hello. In the first part of the lesson, we learn from lesson November 29, 2020 on the topic of faith, about reason. We selected excerpts from the sources continuing from 36. Hello. We are reading selected except on the topic of the work above reason. You can find the study materials also in your boot system under the book icon. You can ask questions on c.tv and selected questions will be asked during the lesson. In our progress towards spirituality, we have to nevertheless depict some pictures, portrayals, states that we're in, and the state that advances us to spirituality is that we feel ourselves where our whole world is divided to two parts. The parts that's close to me, that's my will to receive, my ego, where I live, where I am, the way I'm in, which I'm connected to. This whole world, work, family, and so on. And then beyond that there is a certain boundary, after which I am with my friends and the Creator. So that boundary I have to more or less describe to myself where I am, and so am I with what's close to me in me, which is my will to receive, and how close I am to the whole of humanity. The Creator bestow love, which is all beyond my ego, and this boundary I need to establish it as clearly as possible. I always have to feel the existence of this boundary. Later on it becomes a place of restriction, the inside and outside part of the goof of the that's later, but in the meantime, just to portray reality as divided to this and that, even though I don't yet have any sense of the reality that is above the screen, that is beyond me, that is in the degree of faith above reason in being outside of me, but still I can see two parts in reality. The upper reality, which is the Creator, me in faith above reason in the form of bestow in, live in love, connection, and so on, and the other reality where I'm connected to myself, to my will to receive, where I live the way I'm born, and that's my internal reality. And all our work is how to build this portrayal in us, and how will we be able to raise the importance of the upper reality more than the lower reality. How much I want to be connected to the group, to the Creator, to everything above the mark, above my boundary, above my reason. And if I'm going to use what belongs to me, then only for my existence or for the sake of raising it, of transferring it to the upper reality. And so that's how we should try to divide our perception of reality to two parts. That is essentially the picture that we should try to establish within us, and from there onwards we will advance. Let's look at that according to the excerpts. Go ahead. Yes, we're reading excerpt number 36 from Rabash. When one sees that after all the exertions, he cannot emerge from the governance of the will to receive for himself, then he sees within reason that only the Creator can help him. It follows that what our sages said, man's inclination overcomes him every day, and were it not for the help of the Creator, he would not be able to overcome it. He does not need to believe in these above reason, the way ordinary workers of the Creator who observe believe above reason that this is so, that the Creator helps them. Rather, those people who want to work in order to bestow for them, it is within reason to the point that they must believe above reason that the Creator can help them emerge from the governance of the will to receive. This is not yet perhaps so clear to us, this matter. For some, above reason is there, and for others, not so much. We need to try to transfer as much as we can more of our thoughts and desires to be above the boundary, to relate them to the Creator. Through the 10, we can adhere to Him, to the upper force. The 10 is all in all, the modem, the adapter, the connector, through which we can adhere to the Creator. If we are more or less organized between us, then we can discover who the upper force is, and thus we can actually begin to get a grasp of Him and better adapt ourselves to Him. So more thoughts, more desires, on through connection between us, we come closer to Him. PT 32. In the ego is felt like a prison, and to go beyond the ego is like coming out to freedom. But for some reason it's not possible, because even the 10 is like a boundary. How can we even go out to freedom if it's correct to put things this way? Still, what's missing is, why do you want to go out of prison? Because the truth is that the same prison becomes your illuminated free world. There's no difference between corporality and spirituality, except for the rule of the world to receive, or the rule of the world to bestow. As it is said, there is no difference between this world and the next world, besides what the transformation of thought are transformed, meaning that the will to receive is in control, and there it's the will to bestow. So the same will to receive, when it becomes in order to bestow, you discover that it is the ruler, and that's the next world already. So the difference is not what's in control, but in what way it's in control. That's more accurate, because look, everything's in the will to receive. Without the will to receive, we can never attain what something is. What's outside of the will to receive is the upper light. It's the creator. It's something that I never ever attain, but to the extent that my will to receive is similar to the upper light, that in that will to receive I can describe his qualities, his nature, but I attain all of that inside my will to receive. I never actually come out of it. So the prison is not about how I am in a will to receive right now. Well, the problem is that it's in order to receive, and it needs to be in order to bestow. And so, with this precision of being, that's where what it means to be in and inside or outside of the prison, you'll see how you advance. PT 31. What makes a person become persuaded that the creator can help him? This comes bit by bit through many actions, ups and downs, and a person begins to see that he doesn't depend on anyone here except for the upper force, the friends, the workshops, the lessons, his personal efforts, all of those. They're just a means by which to awaken force outside of him to help. And the fact that a person begins to discover that there is a foreign upper influence that can help him, and if it does, then he changes, and if it's not, then he doesn't. That is essentially the state where a person begins to make contact with the creator. And if he is persuaded, isn't that within reason? I don't know what you mean by persuaded. Well, he's convinced, meaning, as you said, he goes through all of the different states and he reaches a state where he sees that only the creator can help him. So, where does that happen to him? This happens to him in his feeling. Already we're in all of his despair and different states. That's what he sees, but it's only for now. Afterwards, he once again falls into other changing states. There is no state in spirituality that exists forever. Spirituality is not somewhere not outside of us, but what's inside of us. When we come closer and closer, and it always changes, in order to allow us an opportunity to renew our connection with the creator. Give one. When you ask of the creator to help you, to unite with the friends, it doesn't immediately help, but later on you see that the help does come. So there's some different dependency here. How does it work? That is correct. My connection with the friends depends on the of you, of the 10. So I don't immediately feel that I get aid from above and then right away I'm in a different state with them. It can be also after a while, because this is how we advance. This is the general view of the 10, that on their inside, even if my friends don't feel it, when I pray to the creator to be in more connection with them, and I pray for them and I ask and more, then they change on the inside, but they themselves don't feel it, or they do, and they don't feel where it's coming from because of who it's happening even this way. So these states are demanding more time, awareness, sensation, and that's how they permeate us. The feeling is that the creator doesn't want the person to see that the creator is helping him directly. That too needs to be clarified through the group, and even not through the group by the creator, but by him feeling an inclination towards the group more than yesterday, let's say, and by that he discovers that he has this inclination, this tendency towards the group more than yesterday, and that certainly comes from the creator. Later he understands that first he discovers the state, and later he discovers the reason for that state. New York 3. Thank you. We went through an entire sequence of lessons that explain to us that spiritual progress is possible only in the state of faith about reason. And now we're reading an excerpt that speaks about imagining then our next spiritual state is possible only within reason. So, how is it possible to find the balance between these two approaches? Within reason and faith above reason. I am in a state of reason, meaning in my senses, in my mind, in my desire. Now my desire is comprised of intellect and emotion, mind and heart, and in it I live. In it I feel reality. What I feel is called this world. In it I feel that what I feel exists. It's this whole, where space, all those bodies in space, the planets, the stars, planet Earth as well, all of humanity on the face of the planet, and so on, all of it exists in my perception, in my experience. And besides that, as we discussed just before, not today, I have to imagine the boundary of that perception, and then there is a different perception, a perception that is not called the force of reception, where I draw into myself, but rather a force of bestow, where I as if push out of myself are an opposite world. In that opposite world, imagine what does an opposite world mean? Instead of hate, there is love. Instead of reception, there's giving. Instead of attraction, there is rejection and so on. And so, we live not by what's good for me, but rather by what's good for others. And for that I'm doing everything I'm doing. So I am, as if in a suit. And in that suit it's like a diver suit. How do you call that? Yeah, like a scuba diving suit. So let's say in that suit, what I got there is mine. Like you know that the astronauts in space, they too have a space suit. So, whatever is in my suit is mine. That is my world. And what's outside of that suit, outside of that scuba diving suit, that is a different world out there. A world I don't know, a world that the way I am right now I mustn't be there. However, what I do is if I receive the mind and emotion, which is all I have, that's what we have, mind and emotion. So if I begin to accept in my mind and heart the conditions that are there, then I can live there, then there's no problem. This is what we need to acquire together. We are all in all within our minds. Within our feelings do we have no more. That's what the Creator created, but we can change the usage, not for my own benefit, but for the benefit of others, and by that I neutralize my I, and then I don't need this special suit, then I don't need this clothing, the shield around me, and if I don't use that, but only for the benefit of others or outside of me, then I don't need to isolate myself from them. They don't need to, they don't harm me. On the contrary, I can use whatever is outside of this special suit for the benefit of everyone. We need to further and further depict to ourselves in all kinds of ways what we have within our reason, within my current mind and heart, that are in order to receive, and what exists above reason, what exists in them in order to bestow. And so this way, we will gradually bit by bit get closer and closer to that state, so that we can transition from within reason to above reason, from this corporeal world to the spiritual world. Spain 2. Good morning, dear R. If all the friends in the 10, each day that the will to receive overcomes them, how can we as a 10 go towards bestow? Should we detect the deficiency of each friend, or should it be for the general collective correction of the group, for the general correction of the group, for the general connection of the group? And don't try to pick into each and everyone at all. We don't have the mind, the understanding, the knowledge of how we judge each and everyone. Just run away from that through whatever the Creator shows us. We have to connect to each other in order to bestow to each other and the Creator. That's it. Don't go into what kind of desires I have, what kind of thoughts I have, and this and that. I won't, you won't come, and get out of that, and you'll only get confused. What's important for us is connection, and with this tendency for connection, whatever you got, you just need to connect, and from being concerned about connection, as it's called, love covers all crimes. That's the only thing we need to do to cover it with love. Cover it with connection. And when we start doing that, then you start understanding all the details of the connection and how to work with them. That's the only way. DT6. Yes, I wanted to ask, what does it mean? Boundary? What precisely is this boundary? This boundary is the place that later becomes that. It's the boundary between in order to receive to in order to bestow. But how do we create this boundary? We begin to feel that from making an effort to be above reason, and then we gradually more and more reveal that gap between the vessels in order to receive and the vessels that are in order to bestow. We have to always try to see that where is that outer reality. The outer reality doesn't exist. It's rather what I begin to establish within myself, where there is a certain part of me that begins to work in order to bestow, to work in order to connect through the group and with everyone. The group becomes the first knot. The I becomes the mal that simply restricts myself not to use my I, not to use myself, only to use the first knight's field, which means to integrate with the friends, to be along with them. And in our collective tendency, we aim towards the Creator so that He appears in us. When you started your explanation in the beginning of the lesson, you said we should try to divide reality into two. What is this division of the upper reality? Well, kind of we don't yet see reality divided to two, but as if it's divided to two, above reason, the work, the world of bestow, and within reason, the world of reception. Okay, so where is the boundary between them? The boundary is if I establish myself, position myself so that until here is my will to receive, and beyond this point is my will to bestow, which is not that, it's just the same will to receive that now works with intentions to bestow. So when we try to depict the upper reality, what eventually, how do we attain it? Is it our inclination towards it, or do we truly will our existence be in that we build it, if not that we enter it? We rather build the upper world. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist standing by ready for us. No, it's ready for us to make it, but we build it in our will to receive by working with, and with our reflected light we build the upper world. And the more we have reflected light in different degrees, in different manners, then we can further portray to ourselves what the upper world is. But before that, none of it exists. It all exists in our will to receive that works in order to receive or in order to bestow. Beyond that there is our upper source, which we can't even say a word about, because it doesn't exist in our desires or intentions. What does exist in our desires or intentions is what we discover and call that appears in our desires and intentions. That's the Creator. That's called come and see. So everything exists within the person who attains. So what is this act of building the upper world? What precisely do we build? How do we build the upper world? We build our desires that are in mutual qualities of bestow, and that's what we call a soul. Turkey 2. Question from my time is all we have to do is discover the different world within us. Yes, everything is within us and rights that as well, that everything is within the person. Everything exists in the person, and the person is called a small world, and besides us, besides the will to receive, where we discover everything. We can't discover anything more, and we're not able to. Everything is within the desire. And so, all in all, we discover reality only in two different forms. The form of in order to receive and in order to bestow. The Creator created this against that, and from bringing these two parts together closer to each other, from that we begin to understand godliness, the upper force that is above both, but we discover it only in the will to receive. That's why we can give it names and definitions and qualities, because we discover it only in our own will to receive. Italy, for you talked about the astronaut out there who is inside its suit, the space suit. So, on the outside he doesn't have the sense of which to understand what is happening on the outside. So, should we depict ourselves as having other senses beyond the ordinary ones we have? Sure. We have these senses that are just dormant. We have to discover them, and in them we will discover and up the upper reality. The astronaut who sees what's beyond his spacuate. However, we just need to acquire the intentions to bestow, and then what's outside that spacesuits will not harm us, because we also wanted to use it in order to bestow. And so the spiritual world that's outside of us, the moment we will know that we relate to it in order to bestow, then we cannot be harmed. We are above our will to receive, and therefore we can be, to that extent we can be in the same space, in the same will to bestow, in the same kind of in the same external environment. That's how it is. We'll work on it. Italy 3. What is this limitation, this boundary? Is this desire to rise above reason? Our will to receive in order to receive is very limited. It only works to provide something for itself and not to feel the others, and so it cannot be greater than fulfilling itself only. We see that how long we exist, and ultimately we die, and how much can we absorb in our life. In our life, we only take care of maintaining the levels of still, vegetative and animate in us, and we can barely fulfill the speaking degree, the human degree. It also doesn't exist in our nature. It only exists within us. So that's our life. It's just to give us a preparation, a condition from which we can emerge out of the animate degree and achieve the human degree. Mark 2. Hello R, and you said the beginning that I need to sort my thoughts and aim most of them to the creator towards the 10. It sounds kind of complicated. How can we do it? Simply, let's say choose one sensation and throughout the whole day to be inside of it, or to at least try to do it, and aim this sensation to the 10. This is everyone's problem. We have to make an effort to portray to ourselves a different reality to what we feel now, and it's a collective reality, an inclusive reality, all of us together. That is how the integral reality is built, and it's just that the opposite of it. My ego detaches me from that reality. Everyone's connected. Everyone's corrected. All elements of nature are working together as a single mechanism, single system, vastly interconnected, completely connected to each other, and only I feel myself detached from them, and that's why I think of them this way, and that's why I judge them this way. And so, the more I relate to everyone as connected, and I am detached from this connection, and I describe myself as one judges through his own flaws. As it says, this is how it will become easier for me to understand the state of the whole of creation, and I'll see that the divinity dwells in everyone, connects everyone, and it's the revelation of the Creator. That's how he appears. We have to make all sorts of efforts to portray the state where everyone's connected, everyone's corrected. Only I need to make the correction over myself to see everyone cause correctly. Must go for a question of a friend. What do we unite in the 10 in order to reach the Creator's perception of reality? We want to feel in the 10 how whatever appears to my eyes is broken together, and ask the Creator, that is the upper light, to truly connect us as one. And that's what I need to keep thinking. That I'm doing, try to do it. I seemingly exist in some observation point, and there is this issue that I don't allow myself to receive pleasure or be happy. It happens to me in all kinds of actions, in vet or during dissemination. So, the question is, should I take all of these states through my feeling? It's the big ego that you're activating. And the more you refrain from receiving, from enjoying, you're going to feel yourself as righteous, but it's going to be completely false. You need to be happy and to enjoy the opportunity to connect and replace the pleasure of from receiving to a pleasure from giving. But without pleasure, you can't live. You must not enter this bitterness where you are the fool that sits in his own lap and eats his own flesh. It'll give you no strength to do anything in life. On the contrary, you need to develop as many connections as you can with the friends, connections of love. These bonds, instead of sitting and crying about your egoistic existence. Forget about the ego. Don't take care of it. If the more you try to ruin it, the more it grows. It enjoys it. Instead, only think of the form of bestow and love. That's the only way that you can achieve correction. Understood? Our 10 meets every day. We read excerpts from the sources. We have workshops. But you said now that we need to depict a better state than the corrected state. We can imagine connection, and each one of us can talk about it. And then we can ask of the Creator. And each time our meeting should be devoted to this specifically. This is how I see it. Is this approach correct, or should we change something? I consult with the friends and decide. I think that's true. I think that first you need to do it through discussion in the 10 through consulting. You need to decide on everything together to imagine the unity of our 10. What does it mean to imagine the unity of the 10 in the emotion? These two different places. The imagination in the mind, imagination in the heart. Two different kinds of work. When you receive the desire of each and every friend, and you feel that you are all different in that, yet complementing each other. That's what needs to happen. All, both the feeling of difference as well as the feeling of completion, specifically thanks to the difference. By that you begin to feel that you are putting together, composing the 10, composing the soul, Latin for hello. When we say, let's imagine a spiritual state, that will later enable us to work in Lishma. Yes, of course it is. So too, are we living in multiple realities, and what are these? That's philosophy. Be beware of asking these things. 37. Reading excerpt 37 by Rabash. The evil inclination in his body has the power to not let him believe in the creator above reason. By this it takes out every flavor. Whenever he begins to approach something spiritual, he feels that everything is dry without any moisture of life. When the person began this work, he was told, and he believed what he was told, that the Torah is a Torah of life, is as it is written, for they are your life, and the length of your days. And as it is written, more desirable than gold, than much fine gold, and sweeter than honey and the honeycomb. When one considers this, and sees that the evil inclination is to blame for everything, and he strongly feels the bad that it is causing him, then he feels on himself what is written, many are the afflictions of the righteous. That is, that verse was said about him. At that time, he looks at what the verse says afterwards, but the Lord delivers him out of all of them. At that time, he begins to cry out to the Creator to help him, because he has already done everything that he could think of doing, but nothing helps. And he thinks already that everything that you find within your power to do, that it was said about him. It's that time comes, the time of salvation, the salvation of the law of the Creator, delivering him from the evil inclination, to the extent that from this day forth, evil inclination will surrender before him, and will not be able to incite him into any transgression. I think we should read again. The evil inclination in his body has the power to not to let him believe in the Creator above reason, by taking out every flavor. Whenever he begins to approach something spiritual, he feels that everything is dry, without any moisture of life. When the person began his work, he was told, and he believed what he was told, that the Torah is a Torah of life, as it is written, for they are your life, and the length of your days. And as it is written, more desirable than gold, than much fine gold, and sweeter than honey and the honeycomb. But when one considers this, and sees that the evil inclination is to blame for everything, and strongly feels the bad that it is causing him, then he feels on himself what is written. Many are the afflictions of the righteous. That is the verse. That verse was said about him. At that time he looks at what the verse says afterwards, but the Lord delivers him out of them all. At that time he begins to cry out to the Creator to help him, because he has already done everything that he could think of doing, but nothing helped. And he thinks that everything that you find within your power to do, was said about him. At that time comes the time of salvation, the salvation of the Creator, delivering him from the evil inclination, to the extent that from this day forth, the evil inclination will surrender before him, and will not be able to incite him into any transgression. But he starts to understand that evil inclination also helps him to reach the good, and he knows how to use both of these forms, both of these desires. Okay, it's a bit long. This is why it's difficult for us to digest it. Nikolai, can you see it? It turns out that in the will to receive, I have no ability to find the point of in order to bestow. It doesn't exist there. Yeah, so how can you disconnect from that will to receive even for a moment? In terms of this detachment, this jump out of it, of the will to receive. So you want to be a double egoist. I want to also have the will to bestow below me, so that I can manage it. Right, that will never work out for you. The Creator will not give you such a possibility ever. How can you find a point by which you bestow? It doesn't exist in you. You just have an environment. Read again the article about freedom, about the environment, and you'll see what it says there. You certainly would not be able to find a point of bestow within you ever. However, if you are included in the environment there through your subjugation towards them, when you will stop feeling that you are greater than them, and you understand more than them, etc., but rather to the contrary, that you are lesser than everyone, you're weaker than everyone, and by that you will find in them such a point through which you will be able to come closer to the Creator. But it's not a volitional action. The Creator forces me, well, according to your desire, according to your desire, only your ego works. What does it mean? Yours or you? It's your ego who is now determining for you each and everything. How can you identify with it? Just notice the way that you are talking. If you're talking out of your ego truly, without disconnecting from it even a little bit, and without feeling it, feeling yourself outside of it. No, you're constantly talking from within the ego. So how can you discuss things correctly, judge things correctly. I meant according to what we read. Turns out that I myself come to this prayer to the Creator. But you always say that we need to come to annulment in the 10. Well, how can you turn to the Creator if you're not connecting to some extent, or at least have some inclination towards the society? The Creator is giving you all kinds of illuminations from above so that you will feel that you are lost, that you cannot get out of your ego, and then you begin to see that you have no chance of connecting with the Creator. And this is the only force that can help you, and you're not yet certain of it, but at least you hear that this is what is written, so you have no choice but apparently to connect with a Creator, that as He created within you the evil inclination that He will build within you the ability to rise above it to reach the good inclination. So how will you do that? Only through the 10, otherwise you have no contact with the Creator. What you should do. Can I examine this annulment? What do you mean examine it? You have to do it. How do you check within your ego again? How do you check your actions if it is all inside of your ego? So then what are you checking? You simply have to do it as you were told, and then try to disconnect from the thoughts and desires in which you exist, and then it will happen. This is called faith above reason. We have been talking about in the recent days that I depict the world the way that I do depict it, and now I try to build an opposite world inside of me, an opposite relation to it, and that way I can reach what it says. I've seen an opposite world that everything exists only in the form of bestow rather than reception. Try it. Trust your brain less. It seems to you that you're wise. So in the framework of this world, maybe you are, but in spirituality, none of it is worth anything. How is it possible? You're talking about imagining the opposite world. So how can you imagine? I don't know that you're president. You can't and or something else. And here, I have to be precise in my imagination of above reason. Well, do you realize that you cannot build the spiritual world with your mind, your intellect, but only specifically by rising above your intellect, by doing the opposite of it, according to your effort, the effort that you invest in order to build a spiritual world within you. According to this effort, you will get help, but the effort must be to rise above reason. This is why all of our work is to achieve faith above reason, to discover the force of that exists above Malat, above our will to receive. New York 1. The evil inclination is only within the human. The inclination is inside each and everyone, and it works only against connection. That was one clear, one body, meaning one desire. And when he was divided into many parts, all of its parts started to feel one against the other. The evil inclination, a desire that is pushing each part away from the other parts. This is called evil inclination. Turkey 2. Dear Rar, a question from my why does the Creator inflict suffering on virtues? What is the degree of these suffering states, and what will be happen after this suffering? The Creator wants to show us that our ego is awakening within us all kinds of unpleasant feelings that we call suffering. And if we will rise above our ego, then we won't feel suffering. We will only feel pleasures, and in such a way, it is teaching us. Therefore, out of lack of choice, it brings humanity each time greater and greater suffering, and out of that humanity wants to run away from the suffering, and somehow it advances towards forms that are closer to bestial. This is what is happening. You probably were asked many times, but still I'd like to ask again. If a person is entirely made up of the ego, how can he enroll himself before other people? Only out of the ego, just like the still, vegetative and animate, but between people who are all among the people who are all considered as animate animals, there are part of them in which a giant from above awakens. It's a small spark of the light, not even out of the light, but out of the reflected light that remains in them as a result of the shattering. We learned about it, and we will learn more that it happened in the world of and later on in the world of. So that spark from the shattering, which is a part of the reflected light, that is in the captivity of the general will to receive of men, it awakens the person, and it tells him that there is such a thing called the will to bestow. There is this thing that exists outside of the will to receive. It's a different world. It's a different life. It is something that is worthwhile to achieve. And even though he is inside, it is inside of the will to receive. However, that's considered that one is in a state of exile, inside of the wikriaki, but it wants to come out of it, and then the person starts to yearn all kinds of forms of development. First he develops in the direction of better corporal life, and then all kinds of forms of culture, education, science, until after science he reaches the state where I want to know the upper force. Not only this nature that exists within the will to receive, but also the nature which is above the will to receive. And then those people who have an inclination to discover the upper nature, it is considered that they have a point in their hearts that inside of the general will to receive, they have an inclination towards the Creator. They don't yet know it, they don't understand it, but this inclination is already pushing them forward, and then they reach other people with similar points in the heart, and they somehow start to get organized. They think that they're doing it, but it's done from above. A small illumination each time works on each one of them, and on all of them together in order to assemble them into groups. Hence so that through the relationships between them, they will keep conditions by which the upper force can be revealed, which is the force of bestow, the force of unity. So it's the bestow and unity that those people with the points in the heart are capable of keeping between them. That gives the general, allows the general upper force to be revealed among them, and then he is revealed as inner light inside of them. Okay, so Turkey free, thank you, Rar. A question from Turkey 1. How can I overcome the feeling of I didn't advance even a step forward after the morning lesson? Well, it depends on how you check your advancement. You see, it depends on how, and the question is the follows is as follows. Isn't it the Creator who's awakening within you this question that I didn't advance? Imagine to yourself that everything that is inside of you, everything that is awakening in you each and every moment comes from the Creator, so that either you will agree with whatever He is doing with you or you will not agree with what He is doing with you. And that way you will advance in life. Try to respond in such a way for each and every moment that something awakens within you. A desire awakens within you. A thought awakens within you. That is all coming from the Creator. He's always talking to you. He's always with you. However, you are not ascribing it to Him. This is why He is hiding. Try more and more to talk to Him each and every moment through the friends, with the friends, or even by yourself. But it's preferable to do it through the 10. That is a lot more powerful. French. Question from the group. What is that place called between us? It is a place that we don't yet feel. It is the Creator. He is between us. If we will feel that we have between us a will to receive this space which is pushing us away from each other, that is the opposite form of the Creator. Rejection, lack of desire for connection. Try to invert these relations to connection, to an inclination to each other, to love. Then you will discover there that hidden force called boy. Creator, come and see. This is why he's called boy. Come and see. Since out of those same egoistic rejections that exist between you, you need to prepare for him a place for revelation, which is called divinity, or a field blessed by the Lord. Go ahead. Everything is in your hands. He is constantly awakening these conditions in you. Hello, Ralph. World Clay. It sounds as though our egos crave positive or negative attention like a child. Sure. What is the ego? It's just a desire to enjoy. Totally. He just wants to enjoy. That's it. Latin 7. In the article, it says, do whatever you're able to do. What does that sentence mean? That everything that brings you to connection with others and through them, with the Creator, do it in all possible manners, whatever is possible for you. Good morning, Rob. Good morning, World 10. The question is, Rob, we are connecting in the 10, allowing the Creator to appear between us. Everything we discover in this is the Creator's world, nothing besides that. He is the whole reality to us, right? But, of course, there is nothing else besides that. The place that we discover between us, what we discover, that's the place of the world where it, the Creator, where it is revealed and where the Creator is concealed. And all in all, the revelation of the Creator happens there. It's between us. Everything is inside of that soul of Adam Harshan. Besides the soul there is nothing. Well, there is some general light. That we do not discover. It is outside of her vessels. We discover it a little bit as a surrounding light, the general surrounding light. We will talk more about that. If we build the Creator between us, where do all the forces come from? From Him. You build. His image is revelation towards you in your senses, but He exists outside of your senses and He arranges and sustains everything. Must go for. Friend is asking how during the day can a person be in a perception of reality, of the Creator and bestow when everything around him pushes him to egoistic reception. Well, if the group exists and they influence each other and constantly awaken each person to be connected with all of the friends no matter what he's doing during his work when he is at home, in each and everything, then he can all constantly depict in the group the presence of the Creator and that he wants to live with that all the time. The presence of the group and the presence of the Creator. He wants to constantly feel that they're with him. That's it. Doesn't need to depict it as faces, bodies, but rather as emotions, as inclinations. You explained before that the efforts, that is what brings us to the perception of reality outside ourselves. Why are the efforts so important? Well, efforts, that is our exertion. If we will not invest a sufficient amount of effort, we won't be able to fill the spiritual world and the Creator, because this specifically is the vessel. Our efforts, that's the building of the vessel, the building of the desire, the inclination, reflected light in which the upper world, the Creator, is revealed. This is why without efforts nothing can happen. Just like you're making efforts to fulfill your ego, similarly against that you should make efforts to bestow to others and to the Creator, because otherwise without efforts you have no desire. The effort is really the desire. So if you don't have a desire to achieve something, you can't also feel this something. Therefore, to the extent that we yearn to discover the Creator, to connect with Him, through our efforts towards that we develop the key, we discover the key for the revelation of the Creator. Out of these same efforts the Creator becomes revealed. Without effort, where will He be revealed? The effort comes from the desire. If there is no desire, then we cannot feel anything, not the will to receive nor the will to bestow. P20, can you please give a definition? Who is a friend in the 10? The friend in the 10 is one who's making efforts together with me to reach the revelation of the Creator, where it is clear that it won't be in him or in me, but rather in the connection between us. We build that desire in which the Creator, through that mutual inclination between us, can be revealed by that we build the Creator. You have made me, you. Let's summarize the main principles we heard in the lesson. Well, the lesson was very rich and powerful. Rav said that we need to raise the importance of spirituality above our corporality. All of our actions, the various actions, will help us to awaken the upper force. That will help us. And instead of what's good for me, I need to do good to others. Temporal reality and spirituality are the same realities. The will to receive and the will to bestow. Its creation just have to change the direction, the attitude, the clothing, instead of egoistic attitude to pull in to receive, to draw in clothing of giving, of bestow, of the Creator. And in this way the person reveals the upper world. Yes, from a world of rejection to a world of bestow. We have to invert all of our elements. Our desire is built on the intellect. It just wants to grasp things for itself, so it grasps this world in the opposite form. We need to invert it to the form of this. Then we will start to discover a reality that exists outside of us, and by that we will start to perceive the opposite world and use this world not for our own benefit, but for the benefit of others. Imagine the upper system, connected, corrected, and connected. That's very interesting. Yes, how can we come out of our own suit like a diverse suit and develop additional senses that exist already within us, but we have to develop them and feel the world that is more true, a field of pistol and love that exists between us. Right now, the qualities of the Creator. Yeah, we have an opportunity to learn to recognize what is bestowed by making the effort, and connection and coming out of ourselves. We discover the qualities of the Creator, and Kabbalists tell us we need to make this effort, and if we make the effort to reveal and to reach faith about reason, then we receive help from above only on that, and we need to depict to ourselves the upper world where everyone is connected, except for me, and only I need to correct myself in order to connect with them. Connect correcting ourselves. We shouldn't step on the shouldn't pressure it the world will receive, because then we enter into it more. Rather, we need to develop the importance and greatness of giving and connection. Yes, and we need to try all the time to build some reality, to make an effort to perceive reality as integral, that we are part of a collective, a whole, and everything is operating through one giant connected mechanism, and I'm the only one who is disconnected from it. And if I relate everything around me through connection, this is how I bring myself closer to the truth state, according to the effort to build a spiritual world, according to the effort we invest. Accordingly, the Creator helps us. We have spiritual senses, except they're dormant. We must awaken them in the group, and we should also remember that we cannot do it. Only the Creator can help us to enter this dimension, and we have to ask of Him together. Said, believe your mind, your intellect less, and do everything with faith above your intellect. Rise above it. We should simply try every moment to talk to the Creator. Whether it's me with the Creator or it's better if I do it through the friends. Learn a lesson from the study of. We'll read from Volume 1 Part 4 page 276 in the Hebrew edition. Questions and answers item 11. And, before we enter the study, let's watch a clip where Rob explains us the main topic in the lesson. All in all, we have one will to receive, but as we have been learning from the 4 phases of the Rex light, it wants to resemble the Creator in phase 2 in Bener. So we call this will to receive, will to bestow, although there is no will to bestow, but the fact that it wants to appear in this way, it wants to resemble that. Therefore we call it a will to bestow from here, because we have a will to receive and a will to bestow. We have 2 fillings for these desires in one, from one light in the ket according to the desires. We have 2 fillings, the light of in the will to receive and the light of in the will to bestow. The light of that comes to the will to receive comes according to the force of the screen, and therefore we say about it that it comes from above downwards. It's the light of the purpose of creation. It comes from the upper one to the lower one, whereas the lower one following the first restriction made a condition that I will receive only if I will resemble the Creator, because I want to be like Him. I want to be on the same degree, and this condition is called, or the screen and reflected light. So, what magnitude will the lower one have? It is determined by the meaning on the behalf of the lower one. The lower one expands itself in breadth to receive as much as possible, and when the light of comes into this breadth and close, it creates the height, the level of the lower one. So it turns out that all in the corrected vessel, we have a square right, 10 in width and 10 sephiro in height. Again, right from the study of the tense. Volume 1 Chapter 4 The questions and answers item 11. Item 11 was the question, what is a mirror that does not shine? What does it mean, what that brings? Many times a mirror that does not shine is called a mirror that does not shine for 2 reasons. 1. Since the light of Malut did not leave a record after its departure, as did the other lights too, it is because the lights were swapped in the second expansion. The light of HMA came in the vessel of Katina, in the vessel of HMA, etc. Finally, the light of Malhut came in the vessel of Zerin, and the vessel of Malut remained without light. He explains to us 2 reasons. There are other reasons, but here he explains 2 reasons why Malhut is called a mirror that does not shine. 1 is that all the records, all the lights that departed, left behind records. So we can say about this record that we can then come back and draw light over it again. But in Malhut, no record was left, so that it can once again extend light, draw light, as we learned that the last phase is lost. And the second reason is simple. It's because of the swapping of the lights. Malhood has no light, so it is called a mirror that doesn't shine, but there are others, but I'll tell you what he's asking here. It says the following. Here there are two reasons, the second reason why Mallet is called a mirror that doesn't shine. If is it in parts of Galar that it is already considered not shining, or is it in the first part, or in Pooh? Here it says the following. I'll go over it once again. Is called a mirror that does not shine. So I'm asking when all the lights shine, only she doesn't shine. This means in part, where all the lights were shining. This means that she wasn't shining. It seems so. So why didn't she have light? This is why he has to explain that no. Here what it means is that no one was shining, that there was the departure of light in the Pooh of Galar. If they all depart, the light departs from Galgu, then no one has light. So why is Malad specifically called a mirror that doesn't shine? For this comes the answer. Here we're talking about after the departure of the lights, that in everyone a record remained. This record is considered to be shining. So I would like to explain what does it mean that it shines. It can extend the second degree in the second part in the path of Abweras, which is called phase 4, did not leave behind the record that would shine in the second part too. Therefore I see, even according to the first reason, that the reason that Mallet is called a mirror that does not shine is while they all shine, but at a time that all of the lights departed. So no one has light. So it is called a mirror that doesn't shine, not because of Galar, but because of the Pooh of. Is this clear or not? Let's continue. The second reason is the same. Before we talked about the records. Accordingly, it turns out that if I say that Mal did not leave behind a record, and the last phase is lost, it follows that in what will the light of in it turns out that Mal has no light. It doesn't have light. What does that? Where does that stem from? From our first reason, we learned that we have only two roots. Every light, if it emerges, it's like a seal and an imprint as it emerged in the first time. So all the Pufim are imprinted, all of the wholeness. So pursue there is a single root in the pursuit of Galar with respect to the vessels, and one root from the phase of Ab. According to that we learn everything. So we are talking about that received earlier and then it departed. If we say that there are no vessels in the rush never received. So in the row it never departed. So with respect to the row, we never say that the last phase was lost. It turns out that in all the places where we say that the last phase was lost, that last phase is from what it had before when it did receive that was lost. So who is that? It is always Mal of a goof called taboo. Okay, we need to begin. Item 12. We need to begin with what is an almond. So the question 12 he asked about annulment or revocation. What is it that we need to revoke? What I have is what I need to revoke. Do I need to revoke it, or is it revoked by itself? What is he saying? I mean, we're talking about spirituality. Vessels that were used, meaning that they drew the upper abundance. Why was it cancelled? So he comes and explains. After the light departed from the vessel. When was that? We learned that after the departure of the light, there was a clash between the inner light and surrounding light. By that the screen grew weaker. It was unable to aim in order to be stoked. So it cancels the vessel. It says, I don't want to use this vessel. Then the vessel is considered to be receiving in order to receive. So I don't want to use that. This is called the revocation of the vessel. What will be the end of it? This is a correction in the revocation of the vessel, but that is not the goal. This is what he says. After the light departs from the vessel and before it receives its correction to become fitting for clothing the light. Once more, in the meantime, it is regarded as revocation of the vessel. Like a vessel whose usage has been revoked is therefore when is it considered revocation in the meantime? Answer 13. The matter of the clothing of the lights in the vessels should first be in potential and then in actuality. The clothing of the tens, if you wrote in potential, is called row, and the actual clothing of the tens, if you wrote, is called goof. What is the question and what is the answer? The question is what is a goof body in spirituality? So Nav says, using the following language, know that before the innated beings were emanated and the created beings were created. The upper light filled the whole of reality, and it didn't have a nor end. We begin to speak first. We speak about the beginning of the creation of the world of Ak. So how can he say that? There was no rush there. So there it says there was no rush and there was no S. We need to explain, why was there no rush there? Because there was no soft, no end. How does one depend on the other? So he says we need to know what is our S. An end or in spirituality means, as it is written, but he says you can come up to here, but I don't want to receive any more. This means, after the restriction was done, when he said, receiving in order to receive, I don't want to use phase 4. So how will the goal of the purpose of creation be to do good to his creations? We learned it's through that phase 4, called Malhud, drew the light, and seemingly made a calculation. How much can it receive in order to bestow that she will receive? And whatever she cannot receive in order to bestow that I will not receive. This is called R. What is Rush? Head the root. By this calculation, I have to later receive in actuality. It turns out that Rush is called in potential, that he made a calculation in potential how much it is allowed to receive. Then the goof is called what it receives in actuality. So at the time that there was no soft, but rather they immediately received, with the receiving in order to receive. That's the which is the restriction. Immediately they received in actuality. So there was not from potential to actuality, but rather immediately they received in actuality everything, but later on when a soft was made, and it is relevant to say that you need to make a calculation of how much is allowed, how much is forbidden. This is called the quality of judgment. The restriction is called judgment. Why is the restriction called judgment? That a new judgment was made, meaning it is forbidden, in order to receive, is forbidden in order to bestow, is allowed. So you now have as much as it is allowed, as much as it is forbidden. So long as he didn't receive when he makes that calculation, it is considered in potential. This is called the row. From this the goof will be extended, meaning which is to receive in actuality. This is what he says. What is a goof in spirituality? Receiving the abundance in actuality. 14. What causes the vessel? What causes the vessel? He says, the expansion of the light, and its consequent departure causes the existence of the vessel. So we need to know what is a vessel, and then we can say what causes the vessel. That 2 conditions are required for a vessel. 1, that I to receive. I want to receive, but no, you should receive only because it's a mitzvah. It's a commandment. This is called screen and coarseness. The basis for the vessel is the will to receive. He yearns to receive this. Then, why? Because it's good. If it's bad, we don't yearn for it. After the restriction, when this judgment was made, we can't receive everything. It follows that after the restriction, when we receive, using a vessel that has a will to receive and a screen, who causes it? The expansion of the light. It created for us a will to receive. Through the 4 phases of direct light, a will to receive was born in us, and through the restriction, the departure of the light, this causes us to rise to a screen. There are other simple explanations. We'll talk about it in general. Let's see inside 14. What causes the vessel? The expansion of the light. That's 1, and its consequent departure cause the existence of the vessel. 15. What is a wall? A side. What is a wall? We learned a side. We learned that a wall is called a side. Like in you have 4 sides. 3 sides and a small addition. 2 are in a small addition. So those are sides, walls. What in spirituality are these sides? What does it imply to us? Let's see what it says. 15. Because the light is limited and measured only by the measure of the coarseness in the screen. The greater the coarseness, the greatness, the level of the light. Thus, the coarseness is regarded as the vessel and the receptacle for the light. Because of this, the coarseness is regarded as the wall or the side of the vessel. What is the lesson? As the entire vessel is but its walls. In corporality, we can see that I placed coffee here because this vessel, this cup has a side, a wall around it. I can pour a drink into it if it didn't have these walls I wouldn't be able to. The 4 phases in the coarseness of the 4 phases of direct light are 4 layers in the thickness of the wall clothing over one another. They are regarded as internality and externality. The greatest coarseness in the wall of the vessel that draws and measures the abundance is regarded as the internality of the vessel, and the other, more refined phases are regarded as the externality of the vessel. If there is coarse sense of phase 4 there, then it is the internality of the vessel. Phase 3 is external to it, and phase 2 is external to phase 4, and phase 1 is external to phase 2. All of them together are called wall. What is the question, and what is the answer? The question what is a wall or a side in spirituality. So the answer is what is a wall in corporality. We see in corporality. What is that? A small vessel means a small space. A bigger vessel means a bigger space, accordingly, and they should have poured it into this entire space. Therefore, he says no, there are 2 conditions in the vessel. There needs to be a space, and it must have walls. What is a big vessel when it has big walls, and there is also a big space there also? But if it's a space without walls, then you can't feel anything there. So now he comes and tells us what are these walls. Allegory, he says. Let's take a cup. Whose width is the width of the wall is 0.5 millimeter, and let's divide it into 4 parts. 1 part actually makes the wall. But there must be 4 phases. As an allegory, let's say until this 0.5 millimeter of the wall of the vessel, which is less than 0.5 millimeter, you have to divide it into 4 quarters as an allegory. That's not yet considered as walls. So, he comes and tells us that in order for us to have these walls, what we call a space or deficiency so that it can receive. Who created that? The upper one, and we call it the 4 phases of direct light. That specifically phase 4 is capable of receiving the light, and it specifically is the one that draws the light. Who the great will to receive. When a person is hungry, what vessel does he use? The greatest will to receive. Only what? Here a few additional things were added. What was added here after the restriction? That you cannot use coarseness alone. Why? There was a restriction. You cannot use receiving in order to receive. You find that the wall, even the 4th wall as an allegory, it draws the light called will to receive. But there was restriction. You find that phase 4 alone cannot draw anything. And the restriction by itself. Also, you cannot receive anything. What can you receive? With what? With the coarseness, with the rule to receive. If you have no desire for it, how will you receive it? Only what? We measure things according to the screen. What is a screen? How many phases of coarseness he can use in order to bestow? Again, what is a screen? How many phases of coarseness he can use in order to bestow? And until the end, this causes us something new, only in the way of explaining it. What does it mean, something new? Previously, we learned this was before the restriction. Phase 4 was receiving. Now I'm not saying that phase 4 has received and now I say yes. Phase 4 has received. So in order to not be confused, the DMR use the same name but internality and externality, meaning if they can use all the 4 phases. With level 4 of direct light, phase 4 of direct light called receiving in order to receive. She can use 4 phases of coarseness in order to bestow called the screen of phase 4. This is her internality, and the rest of the externality is not using them. If the screen was refined, then phase 4 of direct light called the 4th wall that cannot be used only with 3 phases of coarseness, then I say this is its internality, by that it draws. Why? Who decides now? Not specifically phase 4 of direct light by itself. There's another condition of the screen. That's why another discernment comes. Meaning, in addition to saying that we always have phase 4 of direct light, which is what it draws, we should also think of phase 4 of direct light, whether it's using the internality, meaning with all 4 phases of coarseness. Then 3 is considered now externality. She's not using it. She's using phase 2 of she's using 2 phases of coarseness. It's called 3 is called posterior. With her, she cannot use it. so one is called her externality. She's not using it. If now you have the other conditions, a part that she draws and a part that becomes posterior and a part that is considered externality, she's still using it. Now there are three discernments. Again, same question. Inside what we discussed in the P, we have to see in the inside in the yes. Question 15. What is a wall? The light is limited and measured only by the measure of the coarseness. The screen using it, meaning it can aim in order to bestow. The greater the coarseness that the screen can use, the greater the level of the light. Thus, the coarseness is regarded as the vessel and the receptacle for the light. Which coarseness? The screens. The coarseness is regarded as the wall of the vessel, as the entire vessel is, but its walls. As we see from the corporal example, the four faces in the coarseness are as 4 layers in the thickness of the wall, clothing one another. They are regarded as internality and externality. The greatest coarseness in the wall of the vessel that draws and measures. The abundance. We always speak of the last phase. She determines everything. The last phase is the one that draws. What does it mean? Last phase. Example. With a coarseness of phase 4 come you can come until here you can draw it. Until phase 4 the degree of keto a level of ket. With what is the last phase 3? There's no more than that 4 is considered as posterior. What is its last phase? 2, 3 is considered as posterior. You see who draws everything. It's internality. What does it mean? Internality. The part over which you can make a screen. So you find that a side other than the 4 walls, as I mentioned before, the 4 faces of direct light are called 4 walls. Now we always speak of the 4th wall, which is called a desire to receive. In order to receive, and is called the created being, is the entire receiver. What do we have here? Discernments by the screen. Now there's a condition that I can use the coarseness only according to the screen. You find that it has now 4 new walls, 4 new discernments, meaning as much as the inner vessel with which it is using. How much coarseness can it aim in order to bestow, which is called a screen? As he's saying here, the greatest coarseness in the wall of the vessel that draws and measures the abundance is regarded as the internality of the vessel, and the other more refined phases are regarded as the externality of the vessel. That's why we have this rule. If there is where in the phase 4 of direct light, which is actually the 4th wall coarseness of phase 4, meaning the screen, that can aim over the coarseness in order to bestow. For on 4 phases, this is internality. Necessarily, the 3rd phase is called externality relative to it, and the 2nd phase, if she cannot make a screen, only on the 2nd phase. The 2nd phase will be diminution. Phase 1 external, and phase 3 posterior. In that case we should understand 1. Phase 4 meaning 4 phases of direct light called receiving in order to receive. Now without coarseness you cannot receive. It only depends how much coarseness you can use in order to bestow. In order to not get confused, he says. 4, 3, 2, he divides them into internality and externality. Therefore, you should notice later, okay, the posterior is when you cannot use this coarseness. Externality is it's not using it yet. Internality is the highest phase, the greatest phase. That's what it is using, and this is considered the last phase in the degree. Let's go to 16. What is through the posterior? What is through and what is posterior? The outer phase in the wall of the vessel are also called the posterior of the vessel. Why? It is so because only the inner side of the vessel is considered shining, since the light is limited and tied to it. However, the externality, which does not operate in the drawing of the light, is regarded as not shining and is called posterior. Hence the levels that emerge over the screen during its refinement are regarded as emerging through the posterior, because these emerge on 3 phases that are more refined than phase 4, external to her, and they emerge through the externality, and the posterior of phase 4 sounds as if contradicting himself. What is he saying? He begins to interpret through the posterior. What does he interpret? The outer phases in the wall of the vessel are also called the posterior. Not as we explained before. He adds something here. Why? Because he says now it is so, because only the inner side of the vessel is considered shining. Now he's saying, sometimes changing his style. He wants to hint at a certain phase, which shines or does not shine, and that is face or posterior. Meaning he says look it is so because only the inner side of the vessel is considered shining. Fine. Why? As we say in corporality, where is the liquid? Only in the inside of the wall of the vessel. Outside of it we don't touch it. And they cause it only to use it if, however, the externality, which does not operate in the drawing of the light, is regarded as not shining, and it's called posterior. Hence, the levels that emerge over the screen during its refinement are regarded as emerging through the posterior. What does he say? Posterior means it does not shine. And here what does it mean? That it comes through, that it does shine. What does he shine or does not shine? What does he mean? Therefore, as I said earlier, we need to discern two types of four walls. Four walls of four faces of direct light. Then we use only the fourth. We don't use three, the first three. The previous three discernments are called light without a clay. Then I know which vessel is it using in the internality, and all four are only causing us to have phase four. They make okay. Now, as we said earlier, if we make a rule, every degree proceeds from the one which is higher than it. First we have the discernment of tamam. Tastes meaning ket. 4. Drew the screen over 4. This is called internality. 3 is not operating here, we said earlier. It's called externality. Now he says that it's posterior, but he's not using it now. Then comes and he wants to tell us no. That all the degrees, all the levels that come out during the refinement of the screen, called dots, is direct light abundance that comes from above in the coupling and striking. By striking in the O, and it expands below in the goof. These levels are considered posterior. Judgment. Why? She has to go through the previous degree, previous level, and regarding the previous level is considered posterior. Relative to this is to the internality. It draws over phase 2 has to go through phase 3 in that case. It goes through the posterior of the upper one. The level of comes out through the posterior of the level of Keter, meaning regarding Keter, is considered posterior. The level of Biner through the posterior of the, or compared to, is called posterior. It's only a change of style. What comes before 3? That's why I explained it previously differently. You should make here 3 discernments by drawing. The one that draws is considered internality always. It wants to explain it. If I draw it over 4 or over 3, then it tells us that 4 is considered posterior. 3 the internality. 2 externality. It's not yet part of this in this stage of now. He says it differently. What I called externality before that, but it's not using right now, I now call it posterior. It's the same. What is posterior? It doesn't shine it. Why doesn't it shine in this level? What was it now? It's a higher level. But later, when it shines, what was before is considered externality or posterior, is now shining. It's called through the posterior. It shines through it. It shines, but it's called through the posterior. That's the point. Through the posterior means that it does shine. Posterior alone means that it does not shine. Through the posterior meaning that it does shine, but through the posterior. Relative to the previous degree. Righteous. Why does he have to receive over a share? The light made him move there in actuality. Left it. Now I can see him. Before that he was concealing himself, so I wouldn't be able to see him. Oh, there. 17. What is through the sides? What does it say here? Through the sides. He explains to us. There are 2 sides to the light of right and left, because plenitude of is called right hand side, and meagerness of is called left hand side. They are called sides to indicate that they are both of equal merit, like 2 sides of the same level. As there are important corrections in the multiplicity of, so there are important corrections in the meagerness of. The place where the abundance manifests in the joining of the 2 sides together is called through the sides. What is difficult here? Says look at page 239 item 1. He says the following. 1. The 10 inner spur and 10 surrounding spur emerge from the P of Adam. Next, They are extended from opposite the anterior, the face to opposite the taboo of this Adam Kadam period. Next, this is the main light, but it also shines through the sides and all around this Adam, all around this Adam. Let's move on to the next part of the lesson. We'll hear a conversation where on the topic of to be a representative of the group relative to the Creator from December 25th. We have a question. If Rav offers you a cigarette and you don't smoke, do you start to smoke? Now a person gives the other one something that seems to him as good. It seems to him to be good for him. So if he knows that by doing it by this he would truly harm him, he wouldn't give it to him. Can it be that you don't know exactly what the other person wants, but you want to do good to him? No, if he's asking. But if I see that this is how it is, that's a different story. Okay, this week you said in one of the recorded lessons, I have to be a representative of the group toward the Creator. I constantly worry about that, to feel that myself responsible, not merely prayer for the friends, but to be responsible for everyone from the side of the good, the side of the bad, to be the representative toward the Creator. You are responsible. The question is, what does it mean that a person is responsible? Is responsible in what? An individual person responsible over something. What kind of responsibility does he truly have? But in his work opposite the group, opposite the friends, he tries to bring them closer to the Creator. Okay, so each friend relative to the rest of the friends in the 10, he has to worry about bringing them closer to the Creator. That's his responsibilities toward them. Yes, and each one toward all the other friends mutually. I don't know about that, but you're asking about someone, how to bring them closer to the Creator, to awaken them towards the Creator. So each and everyone will start thinking in this direction of how much does he push the group towards the Creator. Now what is the job of the 10? What is the role of the 10 and its responsibility in order to awaken the other 10s in the group, which is part of? It's the same. What does it mean that now a 10 is responsible for the rest of the 10s, that it awakens the other 10s to wake up and be drawn to the Creator? And that's how it works in circles. Let's say relative to the worldly, and each group in the worldly toward the others. Yes, another question. What is a healthy 10? A healthy 10 when they always have a spirit of connecting around the Creator. How can the society help the sick 10s where there's not enough people, or they're late, or they don't show up? What kind of problems? You don't feel the strong connection from them. Yes. So what can we do relative to these 10s? We need to awaken them. There is nothing here that is artificial, but that's it to truly awaken. Everything with external example, that's the meaning of awaken in a prayer and external example, yes. And what about actually treating a sick 10 for a healthy 10 to approach a sick 10? Do we have such a situation that to mean there's room for to interfere with the 10 and help them? It's not that there is room. There is an obligation. Today in the lesson there was a table next to us, and the friend sat there, alone, only one by himself. The entire 10 did not show up. There's 2 or 3, and the rest of the 10 doesn't show up. How to help him in such a situation? We need to awaken them. To awaken, what do you bring this spirit to the society that will give this new fire? Sometimes there's a feeling with friends that life becomes a rut, a routine. What kind of this fatigue you? No, how do you suddenly introduce a spark just like the first day you came to the path? It depends on who you're incorporated with. It's up to the person. It's the group that you are incorporated with. Mean in the group where I'm incorporated. Others, everything, right? It's up to me. It's up to you. It depends on you. Let's say I started to work on dissemination, but someone who just started to study, how much deficiency, how much excitement, and you have to do. You know, I haven't felt like this in such a long time, like a child getting excited with everything, and you don't have the strength to, he points, let's go this way, let's do this, and we have already done everything. But he brought this livelihood, and I said, oh, I want to be like this, I want to be like a child in my inner work. Where you bring these new forces of revival, so things will just light up like that. Look at the others, and if I look, and I don't see, what is there to be envious of them there? There may be inside they have a whole world, but on the outside everything is like relaxed. What can you take from there? What can you draw from there? No, this is a problem. Narrative. So I have to tell myself a story, entire narrative, that the friend is in the end of correction and I'm not, and I to try to draw the forces from him, or what? I need a practical example. Friends are sitting here right now. Yes, they're sitting there relaxed. Everything is good. What can I get from there? Or I tell myself a story that I have what to receive, and it has nothing to do with them limits in how I tell myself this story, or I need to see something to ignite me. You need to try to lift yourself. Which state rubbish said that it's better for a person to leave to go out and enjoy the pleasures of this world. Are you? I don't remember. You remember what I'm talking about. To which degree a person should know. No. So, what's the question? Rush told someone, you know, at least. Go and enjoy the pleasures of this world. Yes, either you're already in Kabbalah, go for it all the way, or go and have a life. There's nothing in the middle. Yeah, go enjoy. Yes, which state was he referring to when he said it? I don't know the state of an ordinary person, because there's simulations, temptations of the will to receive that awaken a person. They're always there. After all, a person lives in this world until he reaches something. With the help of the Creator, comes to a place where he's drawn and he's connected to the life in the tin. Yes, I said it's a great miracle. In this state we said that Rush tells a person go, enjoy. A person doesn't feel connection to the Creator. He doesn't have a feeling of inner work. Yes, tells him at least go and enjoy what's on the outside. Yes, the question is on which conditions do you let loose a person like that to go and enjoy? Why not influence him? We enforce the importance of the goal. He came here. He's already here. If he has such an environment, then suddenly he needs to connect to it. If he loses his strength, his forces, he loses power, loses connection, he should enter an environment that can awaken him. So nevertheless, he needs to want to enter such an environment. Why am I asking? Because earlier when Daddy and Shimon said, look, a friend is sitting alone around by a table, or 2 or 3 friends, only 2 or 3 friends show up. If you look back, these friends had another 7, 8 friends around them at least. Yes, gradually all kinds of things happened. Everybody feels justified. There was a necessity at work, necessity at home, all kinds of stories. Person gradually diminished his presence, with us. And I'm constantly asking myself, what can we do? How can you? I'm sure that each one is doing the maximum. Look how many resources you invest in the factory to awaken, and the awakening team, and the social team. There are many friends who really care about it, but nevertheless, when a person comes to a place, to a state where as if he ran out of batteries. Yes. So what do? We awaken him, we connect to him, and we supply him with power. If the Creator runs everything, and in the end it's the root of a soul that comes to Kabbalah. If the Creator manages everything, then all that's left for me is to go into bed and fall asleep. But it's not right. The Creator holds a person like a magnet. He let him go, and I will become. No, I mean, how do you know it's like that? Because you said so. Meaning this is not my calculation, anyone's calculation. A person has to awaken, and then do everything in his power. Yes, seemingly remove the Creator from the action. Do everything in his power to do. Yes, let's share our impression from the talk. The person should do whatever is in his power, and we need to awaken. We need to simply help the friends to awaken. Friends that are tense, that are empty or half full. Sometimes you see one friend sitting, so don't wait for the Creator to take care of things. But we simply have to awaken. We have to awaken ourselves. We have to awaken the friends, and in that we have to operate independently. It's not that we should wait for the Creator to awaken, but we need to operate from below. At the end of the lesson, everything is mixed up. I hope that everything we mentioned and we study today will come true. Yes, we depend on each other, and we can help each other. In terms of the group, in terms of we always have opportunities to learn what does it mean to bestow. Through the society, two main things our role in the 10 is only to help the friends who push them, to awaken them toward the Creator. And another thing, a healthy 10 is a 10 where there's always high spirits around connecting, around the Creator. Yes, we need to feel it between us. If a person decided that he comes to the tent and he advances with other people who gathered, you have to use it. Awaken one another, work, push each other toward the goal. They good night each other. Don't just sit there and say everything is from the Creator and all we have left to do is to pray. Yes, I was thinking about it. Healthy 10. When we meet in the meetings of our attendance is always joy. Joy from connection. There is this spark that ignites. This is a happy 10. We should make sure that all the meetings of our attend would always be joy of the connection between the friends, and with that I've also added and said that there is room for one 10 to help another 10, even kind of mentor another 10, and the joy from connection will also flow into 10s that are not in a healthy state. May we merit bitten to be such a thing also among us, inside of us, to be able to realize what the co-lists have prepared for us, to be able to always be excited with the desire to go forward. High spirits. In the 10 there is everything I need in order to advance in spirituality, and what I need to do is just to kneel before it. Yes, and all toward it. Every day we prepare for the Congress, and the Congress will do it. We'll do it together. Final message. Dear friends, we're happy and excited to invite everyone to the World Kabbalah Congress 2026. We connect in the 10 and adhere to the Creator. It's the first Congress where we FL through the TS will lead the contents, the atmosphere and the spiritual work. It will take place on Thursday to Saturday, the 19th to the 21st of February 2026 in the Kabbalah Center in Petakar and India Root System. Let's finish with a solo. Let's go together. Let's go on together. We're going to dance all night long 'cause we are all one. Let's go on together. Let's go on together. We're going to dance all night long 'cause we are all one. We're going to dance all night long 'cause we are all one, 'cause we are all one. Let's go on together. Let's go together. We're going to dance all night long 'cause we are all one. 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 There's no walls between us. No separation in our hearts. There's no walls between us. No separation in our hearts. Nobody stole. All those who know Shalom in the first part of the lesson will learn from lesson November 29, 2020 on the topic of faith, about reason. We selected excerpts from the sources continuing from 36. Hello. We are reading selected excerpt on the topic of the work above reason. You can find the study materials also in your boot system under the book icon. You can ask questions on kab.tv, and selected questions will be asked during the lesson. In our progress towards spirituality, we have to nevertheless depict some pictures, portrayals, states that we're in, and the state that advances us to spirituality is that we feel ourselves, where our whole world is divided to two parts. The part that's close to me, that's my will to receive my ego, where I live, where I am, the way I'm in which I'm connected to this whole world, work, family, and so on. And then beyond that there is a certain boundary, after which I am with my friends and the Creator. So that boundary I have to more or less describe to myself where I am, and so am I with what's close to me in me, which is my will to receive, and then how close I am to the whole of humanity, the Creator, bestow love, which is all beyond my ego. And this boundary, I need to establish it as clearly as possible. I always have to feel the existence of this boundary. Later on it becomes a place of restriction, the inside and outside part of the goof of the that's later. But in the meantime, just to portray reality as divided to this and that, even though I don't yet have any sense of the reality that is above the screen, that is beyond me, That is in the degree of faith above reason in being outside of me, but still I can see two parts in reality. The upper reality, which is the Creator, me in faith above reason in the form of bestow in, faith in love connection and so on, and the other reality where I'm connected to myself, to my will to receive, where I live the way I'm born, and that's my internal reality. And all our work is how to build this portrayal in us, and how will we be able to raise the importance of the upper reality more than the lower reality. How much I want to be connected to the group, to the Creator, to everything above the mark, above my boundary, above my reason. And if I'm going to use what belongs to me, then only for my existence or for the sake of raising it, of transferring it to the upper reality. And so that's how we should try to divide our perception of reality to two parts. That is essentially the picture that we should try to establish within us, and from there onwards we will advance. Let's look at that according to the excerpts. Go ahead. Yes, we're reading excerpt number 36 from Ramash. When one sees that after all the exertions, he cannot emerge from the governance of the will to receive for himself, and he sees within reason that only the Creator can help him, it follows that what our sages said, man's inclination overcomes him every day, and were it not for the help of the Creator, he would not be able to overcome it. He does not need to believe in these above reason, the way ordinary workers of the Creator who observe believe above reason that this is so. The Creator helps them. Rather, those people who want to work in order to bestow, for them it is within reason, to the point that they must believe above reason that the Creator can help them emerge from the governance of the will to receive. This is not yet perhaps so clear to us, this matter. But for some, above reason is there, and for others, not so much. We need to try to transfer as much as we can more of our thoughts and desires to be above the boundary, to relate them to the Creator. Through the 10, we can adhere to Him, to the upper force. The 10 is all in all, the modem, the adapter, the connector, through which we can adhere to the Creator. If we are more or less organized between us, then we can discover who the upper force is, and thus we can actually begin to get a grasp of Him and better adapt ourselves to Him. So more thoughts, more desires, on with through connection between us, we come closer to Him. PD 32. In the ego is felt like a prison, and to go beyond the ego is like coming out to freedom. But for some reason it's not possible, because even the 10 is like a boundary. How can we even go out to freedom if it's not correct to depict things this way? Still, what's missing is, why do you want to go out of prison? Because the truth is that the same prison becomes your illuminated free world. There's no difference between corporality and spirituality, except for the rule of the world to receive or the rule of the world to bestow. As it is said, there is no difference between this world and the next world. Besides, what the transformation of their thought are transformed, meaning that the here, the will to receive is in control, and there it's the will to bestow. So there, same will to receive, when it becomes in order to bestow, you discover that it is the ruler, and that's the next world already. So the difference is not what's in control, but in what way it's in control. That's more accurate, because, look, everything's in the will to receive. Without the will to receive, we can never attain what something is. What's outside of the will to receive is the upper light. It's the Creator. It's something that I never ever attain, but to the extent that my will to receive is similar to the upper light, that in that will to receive I can describe His qualities, His nature, but I attain all of that inside my will to receive. I never actually come out of it. So the prison is not about how I am in a will to receive right now. The problem is that it's in order to receive, and it needs to be in order to bestow. And so, with this precision of being that, where what it means to be in and inside, or outside of the prison, you'll see how you advance. PT 31. What makes a person become persuaded that the Creator can help him? This comes bit by bit through many actions, ups and downs, and a person begins to see that he doesn't depend on anyone here, except for the upper force, the friends, the workshops, the lessons, his personal efforts, all of those. They're just a means by which to awaken force outside of him to help. And the fact that a person begins to discover that there is a foreign upper influence that can help him, and if it does, then he changes, and if it's not, then he doesn't. That is essentially the state where a person begins to make contact with the Creator. And if he is persuaded, isn't that within reason? I don't know what you mean by persuaded. Well, he's convinced, meaning, as you said, he goes through all of the different states and he reaches a state where he sees that only the Creator can help him. So, where does that happen to him? This happens to him in his feeling already, where in all of his despair and different states, that's what he sees. But it's only for now. Afterwards he once again falls into other changing states. There is no state in spirituality that exists forever. Spirituality is not somewhere not outside of us, but what's inside of us. When we come closer and closer, it always changes in order to allow us an opportunity to renew our connection with the Creator. Give one. Dear Rob, when you ask of the Creator to help you to unite with the friends, it doesn't immediately help. But later on, you see that the help does come. So, there's some different dependency here. How does it work? That is correct. My connection with the friends depends on the of the 10. So I don't immediately feel that I get aid from above and then right away I'm in a different state with them. It can be also after a while, because this is how we advance. This is the general view of the 10, that on the inside, even if my friends don't feel it, when I pray to the Creator to be in more connection with them, and I pray for them and I ask and more, then they change on the inside, but they themselves don't feel it, or they do, and they don't feel where it's coming from because of who it is happening, even this way. So these states are demanding more time, awareness, sensation, and that's how they permeate us. The feeling is that the Creator doesn't want the person to see that the Creator is helping him directly. That too needs to be clarified through the group, and even not through the group by the Creator, but by him feeling an inclination towards the group more than yesterday, let's say, and by that he discovers that he has this inclination, this tendency towards the group more than yesterday, and that certainly comes from of a Creator. Later he understands that. First he understands, he discovers the state, and later he discovers the reason for that state. New York 3. We went through an entire sequence of lessons that explain to us that spiritual progress is possible only in the state of faith about reason. And now, we're reading an excerpt that speaks about imagining that our next spiritual state is possible only within reason. So, how is it possible to find the balance between these two approaches within reason and faith above reason? I am in a state of reason, meaning in my senses, in my mind, in my desire. Now my desire is comprised of intellect and emotion, mind and heart, and in it I live. In it I feel reality. What I feel is called this world. In it I feel that what I feel exists. It's the whole. This whole, the space that all those bodies in space, the planets, the stars, planet Earth, as well all of humanity on the face of the planet, and so on, all of it exists in my perception, in my experience. And besides that, as we discussed before, today I have to imagine the boundary of that perception, and then there is a different perception, a perception that is not called the force of reception, where I draw into myself, but rather a force of bestow, where I as if push out of myself or an opposite world. In that opposite world, imagine what does an opposite world mean instead of hate. There's love instead of reception. There's giving instead of attraction. There is rejection and so on. And so, we live not by what's good for me, but rather by what's good for others. And for that I'm doing everything I'm doing. So I am, as if in a suit. And in that suit it's like a diver suit. How do you call that? Yeah, like a scuba diving suit. So let's say in that suit, what I got there is mine. Like that the astronauts in space, they too have a space suit. So, whatever is in my suit is mine. That is my world. And what's outside of that suit, outside of that scuba diving suit, that is a different world out there. A world I don't know. World that the way I'm right now I mustn't be there. However, what I do is if I receive the mind and emotion, which is all I have, that's what we have, mind and emotion. So if I begin to accept in my mind and heart the conditions that are there, then I can live there, then there's no problem. This is what we need to acquire together. We are all